Okay, hello everyone, Meesfeed here, another Battlefield Heroes video. So first of all, I want to say the mic quality is going to be a bit different for this video. I am testing out a new mic, so yeah, it might sound different to what you're used to and to what I'm used to. So yeah, hopefully it's okay. If it's not, obviously I won't use it again, but I just thought I'd try this out. So the video I'm going to be doing today is basically a shotgun guide in the game. So recently I had a comment on my last video basically asking me like a video suggestion for me to do a dual long-range shotgun guide, and how to use it effectively, switching, or basically all stuff about the setup. And I thought, well, why don't I just expand on that and just do a general like overall shotgun guide instead of like one video about this specific setup. I thought I'll just do like a video on all the shotguns in one. So yeah, hopefully this will be interesting. It might not help too many people, but hopefully it does help a few people. I did notice, like, especially from my last video, like on the comments, there were people coming in asking how to play. So there are still like new people either discovering BFH for the first time, or people that are like, they didn't know that the game came back. So hopefully, even if it doesn't help you, if you've been playing the game for years, you might still find this interesting. But yeah, I'm just gonna go over all the shotguns. So shotguns in BFH, they're all semi-auto, they're not automatic, which is a shame there aren't any like that. And they're not for everyone. Not everyone likes to use them. There are some that people just don't touch at all, and you may only really like a certain one. But I do find them all to be quite fun to use for the most part, and yeah, they can all be quite good. So I've broken it down into a few types basically. You've got the short range, which is a fast shotgun. You've got the moderate range, which is moderate rate of fire. And you also have another moderate range, which is very slow, which is the alien shotgun. You have the long range, which is slow, like a slow rate of fire. And you have the long range that's very slow, which is the assault shotgun. So those are like the 5 types that I've broken them down into. And there are, some others. If you really wanted to go deep into it, you could think like, okay, well, there's other shotguns that maybe are slightly different, even more like than that, like there's maybe a slight bit of damage in one range on something, or stuff like that basically. But I thought these are just the 5 main ones to talk about, and the ones that most of the shotguns are going to fit into like one of these categories basically, so, or they're like incredibly similar. And I just want to say as well, I'm going to be talking about shotguns that are currently usable in Rising Hub and the current state of the game. So, some weapons, for example, had ammo changes to my knowledge, and nerfs potentially. So I'm not going to be talking about like grenade attachments for shotguns or anything like that, for example. Yeah, just stuff that's playable through this. So yeah, so to start with the fast shotgun, you've got 12 shots for the regular one and 15 for the super version. This is one of my personal favourites. I mean, I've used dual short range quite a lot back in the old game as like a hero challenge, and I can say this about a lot of shotguns, but this one in particular, it's better used on gunner because of Leggett. I mean, it's much easier to close the gap because the damage really does drop off significantly when you're even a little bit far away from the enemy. And yeah, you do want to be as close as possible. You want to make sure that you're constantly within, your best possible range for damage. Otherwise, it's going to feel a bit frustrating, and you're going to feel like, well, my weapon's kind of useless. So yeah, I mean, the enemy can also back away, and that puts you at a bit of a disadvantage if you can't keep up with them. But it's just something that you got to think about, and not everyone really realizes that. Not everyone will back away from someone that they've got, that they see they've got a fast shotgun. But it is a way to counter the damage somewhat. It is best used on smaller maps, or at least maps where there's a lot of close range combat, and areas that support that, like Victory Village or Perilous Port, and there are some other examples as well, which you may see in the gameplay. So it is actually one of the best weapons to take down knifing commandos quickly, and you can also have surprising damage against other classes too, but you do need to play aggressively with it and get close as much as possible. And you are gonna notice, whether you're a gunner or a soldier using this, you're still gonna lose fights, I would say, to people using other close range weapons like a cheeser, like a close range machine gun, something like that. But yeah, like as long as you are as point blank as you can be, you still have a pretty good chance, and you are going to do some good damage. And yeah, the spread isn't that wide, so you can definitely land hits from range, but the damage is going to be very weak, so that's why I say you have to get as close as possible. You can't really, some weapons in the game, like even the machine gun, like I just said, I mean, that you can get away with it in not being like incredibly close. You can do pretty good damage without getting too close. But yeah, this one you do kind of have to be as aggressive as possible, really. So I do think, as well, well, this is the thing, like, it is the best shotgun and weapon in the game for ranking up, if you care about that. I should say right now, all shotguns, just so you know, they do rank you up faster than anything else, because ranks are based on, like, bullets or pellets hit. So obviously the way the shotgun works, you are going to get a lot more rank up points and rank up hits. But, I mean, that's not for everyone. I mean, I did that challenge with dual short range a long time ago, and that was to get, like, ranks pretty quickly, as well as a bit of a challenge, but nowadays I don't really care about that. But yeah, if you do, I mean, that's something, I guess, as well. So in terms of like builds for a gunner, like I said, you can use dual short range. You can also use short range with the long range shotgun. And soldier, I would say if you are going to go with soldier, you could do, pair it with the long range pistol. Yeah, I think that's not terrible. But I do think, especially the short range one, it is kind of harder to use as a soldier. But yeah, overall, I find this really fun to use on the right maps, especially with duels, but it's definitely not required, as the super version has more than enough ammo for most encounters. But yeah, I do really like this shotgun. It is probably one of my favourites in the game. So, moving on to the moderate shotgun, you've got 10 ammo for the regular and 13 for the super. And I should have said this at the start really, guys, but I'm not going to exactly throw numbers out at you here, like damage numbers and stuff. I mean, hopefully you'll see that in the gameplay and it'll be kind of obvious. I'm not really like gonna read off a spreadsheet of all the different damage numbers, but again, there's a bit of stuff in here that's kind of what you need to know, and also a bit of my opinion in here as well. Yeah, but you can see like for yourself, obviously, in the gameplay, because I did go through and use every shotgun. So yeah, basically the moderate one, it's also known as the default shotgun, which in my opinion, it's not a bad weapon, for a default one. A lot of people will probably give it a lot of negativity and a bad name, but it's really not that terrible. But you should really know, like, the rate of fire, it does take some getting used to. You need to time the shots correctly for the most consistent damage, and it is okay in mid-range, and it's actually better in short range. The problem is the fast shotgun does a better job in that range, because it's gonna get a bit more damage, the fire rate's obviously much better, and it's got more ammo as well. And the damage in mid-range isn't really worth taking. It's not really worth taking this shotgun over the short-range one, in my opinion. Even though I do think it's fun to use and it's far from unplayable, it just kind of stands out the least, and it's the weakest shotgun to me. And yeah, I mean, having said that, I've still had fun with it, and it can feel rewarding at times to use it. But yeah, it's kind of hard to put it in a certain way, because it is kind of like outclassed in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's definitely still, you can get some good damage with it. You can also use a long range shotgun with it in terms of builds, or if you want to challenge yourself, you could pair it with the default SMG or MG for like a new player experience. But yeah, I've done that before, it's kind of interesting. But yeah, like I said, I do like the shotgun, but if I'm gonna say where I'd rank it, it's probably, for me, it's definitely the weakest one out of all of them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's incredibly awful, basically. Alright, so moving on to the long range shotgun, or the slow shotgun. So you got 8 ammo for the regular one and 11 for the super. Honestly, it's a great shotgun all around. You've got solid damage in all ranges, but obviously a slow rate of fire to compensate. And this is pretty much why a dual build is popular and one of the most notorious, like, overpowered setups in the game's history. So yeah, obviously, when you're combining all those factors with the fact that you're using 2, you're kind of bypassing the slow rate of fire, because when you use one, you switch to the other, and then you switch back, and you basically just got like a constant flow of damage, and it's pretty insane when you do it right. So yeah, on this weapon you've got crazy crit numbers. I've seen a huge amount before, like into the 80s and stuff like that. You might see in the gameplay, I did have a few moments where there's crits, and I think, like, did that really happen? And this was without an enemy being marked by marked target as well, by the way, which in case you didn't know, you do get a much higher score using shotguns than any other weapons with that combination. Like when an enemy is marked, if you're using a shotgun, you're going to get quite a lot of points for it, but it's kind of like false information, like false damage. But yeah, the crits on this, like I said, just crazy. So we're going to talk about duels. I mean, switching advice. It's mostly, you know, just done with dual long range anyway, like in terms of using two shotguns and like switching in that way. You can do it with others as well, but it's mostly the long range ones. But yeah, I'd say basically any two keys that you're comfortable with. A lot of people use the scroll wheel. I actually don't. I use number keys, but that's pretty much what I'm used to for like years of playing the game. But I'm really not like someone who likes this setup too much. I don't really use it very often. Like I say, it is very overpowered. In the gameplay, I just basically picked it up after like months of not playing it. And yeah, I do think once you get the hang of it, it is quite easy to control. But I think the main thing you got to look at is what is the best setting for you in terms of switching between them. You don't want to make it something that's too awkward, you know, that affects your movement or your aiming, something like that. But I do use the number keys personally. And it's just basically a matter of switching after each shot and timing it well, so you're not, you know, switching too fast or not fast enough, where, you know, you get moments where you think, okay, I'm switching too fast, I'm not actually getting consistent damage, or you're not switching fast enough, so it's like you feel like you're not really making the best use of having two, really. But yeah, it is the best shotgun in the game in my opinion. All around good damage, decent ammo count, and it pairs well with a lot of weapons, so you can really suggest quite a lot here. But if I'm going to suggest some, you know, obviously the dual build itself, like I just said, ridiculous. But for gunners, it does work well with a short range machine gun. It actually does decent damage with a long range one as well, and as a soldier, to be honest, it does actually do pretty well with, you know, most SMGs as well. So yeah, and obviously goes without saying, you know, like I said, with the close range, you can pretty much do quite well with a long range and a close range. Also, the dual setup, like I was saying, it is, like I said, overpowered, so especially in the right hands, but like, excuse me. So yeah, as a part of that, you will notice a lot of servers, they're going to be banning this setup. So there aren't really going to be many opportunities and many maps and servers you'll get to use the setup on if you want to use it. So, you know, for example, for me, like in the gameplay, it was hard to find too many servers where I could actually, you know, have like a full game and actually use it. But yeah, I only really did this for the purpose of the video. But yeah, just be aware of that if you want to try them together. Alright, so the next one's the assault shotgun. So this has only got 6 ammo, and there's no like super version of it or an equivalent that has more ammo, so you are kind of limited there. It's actually one of the only weapons in the game that can't land crits, so you're always dealing with fixed damage, and you might think, oh, that's terrible, you know, you're not landing crits. But I mean, the fixed damage is very good anyway, you know, in close and moderate range, and it's fairly accurate as well, so you don't really miss out on too much, and, you know, not getting an occasional crit isn't really a huge deal. But the ammo count isn't amazing, so that's just something to consider. But yeah, I do like the shotgun quite a lot. You could make some comparisons to the long range one. But yeah, I mean, you will get moments where the damage kind of surprises you. But obviously, if you are someone that's, you know, hoping to get these crazy high numbers from time to time with a crit, it's just not going to happen. And yeah, you can use this with a short range machine gun, you know, pretty similar to the long range one. Like, you can use it with a lot of different you know, short range options, especially on soldier, like most SMGs, short range or a battle rifle, something like that. But yeah, I do like the shotgun. Obviously, just thing to note, like, and again, you could say this for a lot of them, really. You do want to make the most of getting like all the pellets to hit. Obviously, if you just get your enemy in the very center of like the aiming reticle, that's the best thing possible. Yeah, okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about in this typing is the alien shotgun. So this is actually like the worst of all of them in terms of the ammo count. It's only got 4 like right now in game. It did have more in the original game from memory, but yeah, like 4 ammo is pretty low. But it's a very unique shotgun. It can actually disrupt enemy movement and move them around quite a bit. It's just quite annoying in that sense. It's a good like controlling weapon, really. And it can actually be used as like a mini rocket launcher to get onto high spots, and it's not it's not like as much force as like an RPG, but it is a pretty interesting replacement, or like if you wanted to try it out for that purpose. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that that's like an added bonus and an added feature to it, just something else. The damage up close is crazy, to be honest. It can be frustrating to face in close range, and obviously the fact that you're moving someone around, it's probably, you know, along with the fast shotgun, one of the best weapons to deal with like knifing commandos, because you're just gonna not only do a lot of damage up close, but you're gonna disrupt them, so they're not really gonna have as much of a good, you know, sight on you basically to stab you. The thing is though, it's got almost non-existent damage from longer ranges due to the wide spread, honestly, and there's quite a long delay between shots, so you will be relying on a backup weapon quite a lot, and if you do miss with it, it is kind of awkward because you think, well, I could have used a shot, you know, a shotgun with a slightly better spread, and I would have actually got decent damage as well without having to, you know, sacrifice potentially missing with this one. It is mostly like something that you use just to get a good quick hit in before you use your other weapon, and preferably up close, because like I said, you know, you're not really going to do much damage or get many hits to land from range, and also the whole like moving enemies around, disrupting them, that's going to be weaker as well from range, so it is preferred to be up close. And yeah, like I said, not a lot of ammo, so you will reload quite often, and as of when this video is being made, they haven't released a stolen version or another one like this, like a reskin, so you can't use two of them together like to make up for the low ammo. And to be honest, that's probably a good thing, but yeah. Another thing to say, it also can't crit, just like the assault shotgun, but you don't really seem to care about it. You know, there's definitely like positives and negatives compared to the assault shotgun. I mean, like I said, the spread on this almost non-existent. Like it's pretty crap from range. The ammo count, the massive delay, but yeah, moving enemies around. Pardon me again. It's honestly pretty good to do that. I would say, since this weapon, you know, is so bad from range, you'd either need a long-range weapon with it, or just take a short-range weapon and try to avoid long-range combat, really. But yeah, it is pretty pretty strong overall. Alright, so I guess ability builds now I could talk about. You know, if you focus on shotguns only, you do eliminate two abilities in the game, those being Frenzy Fire and Burning Bullets. That's not necessarily a bad thing though, because it means you can focus on other abilities that are still strong, like explosive kegs and grenade spam, stuff like that. And obviously Legit definitely helps with shorter range damage and, you know, closing a gap and getting into certain other areas. And obviously soldiers can use Blasting Strike to complement shotguns that are still strong from range, like the assault shotgun and long range shotguns. So yeah, I mean, obviously ability builds, it's really up to you. But I would say, like, if you're going to be focusing on dual shotguns, definitely be aware of, you know, abilities that just won't apply to those weapons. So yeah, overall guys, you know, those are the main 5 that I would say are in the game. As you know, like BFH, there's a lot of reskins in the game. It's always been like that, to be honest. There's like lots of reskins. They were quite lazy with it, to be honest, but yeah, there's still a decent amount of variety for these at least. And like I said, I don't think there's any of these that are completely unusable and unplayable. But if I had to rank them, I would say the long range one is the best, and the moderate range one is probably the worst. But yeah, you can see here, you know, they're all quite unique, really. They don't really stand out, like in terms of, like, they're not all too similar. But I would say, for the most part, all of the shotguns in the game are going to be good up close. It's just some are definitely more all-rounders, some are like way preferred to be close range, some, you know, there's just different variables with them, and obviously you got to think, like, how do you want to play, how is it going to benefit you, and also just to consider, like, the rate of fire, the delays between shooting, and the ammo count as well. There's things like that to consider. But hopefully, you know, this was helpful to some of you guys. Like I said, I did, you know, I didn't want to give too much, be too detailed with the numbers and stuff. You can hopefully see that in the gameplay. Hopefully it helps, because I did go through and use every single one of these shotguns recently. But yeah, hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully, you know, the people that wanted to see, weapon related stuff. Hopefully that helps you as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.